Hello everybody and welcome to City Skylines with me, David1. In this episode, in Vanillaville, no mods, nothing, we are making invisible pathways. That's right, invisible pathways. That is, I know, mind-blowing. Let's get straight to it. I don't want to clickbait, I don't want to waste your guys' time. We are going to make invisible pathways. Now, we need a willing victim really, so this guy I find to put in a path just to fake him. How are we going to make an invisible pathway? Well, if you draw in a pathway with either the pavement path, the cycle path, or the gravel path, this does not work for any other type of path. That is the trick to this. Why? Why does it not work with anyone? Because this is a smaller hitbox. It has a smaller hitbox compared to the other path types. These path types, you can see, they have a larger hitbox, they're slightly wider, slightly thicker, so this trick is not going to work. So what you do is, you put your path down as you wish. So you lay down all your paths wherever you want your pathways to be going. You then go into the parts DLC, you go into your part tab, and you come along to the flooring right here. The ground tiles. With these ground tiles, you can, that's right, sneak over the side, and bang. That pathway still works. The game still sees this pathway, it will still have people walking on it, just you can't see it. The pathway is now disappeared. It will keep the lampposts. That is the only bad sign I've found. But you can get rid of the lampposts. How do you do that? Well, you just use a gravel path, and then you don't have to worry about the lampposts, because the lampposts aren't there with gravel paths. Meaning, you can decorate an area up, put in some buildings, and then lay these ground tiles over the top of the pathways, and it looks a lot more natural. It looks a lot more realistic. So that is what we're going to do this episode. We are going to make this area right here into something really, really fun, exciting to look at. Now, there is a few little things to say this. If you want to add bridges and want to add tunnels, it changes the hitboxes and stuff, and it doesn't work as well. That is the downside of it. But with that being said, we now know that we can draw in some really cool pathways in this area, fill it with some stuff. So we have our zoo, camping, weird park over here, whatever you want to call it. It's got some animal attractions. We want to put in a souvenir shop, we want to put in a cafe, we want to put in a plaza. What we're going to do is we're going to turn, we'll probably keep on the angle, just get rid of the guidelines, we'll keep the grid. Actually, we'll probably get rid of the grid as well, and we're just going to draw in just a couple of nice little straight lines all over the place, and then we can put in whatever buildings we want. That's right, you then put in all of your buildings. So whatever park stuff you want in this area, you put them in. So I'm thinking we're going to want, from the zoo stuff, we're going to want a souvenir shop right by the entrance. So we're definitely going to want that. We're going to not place it bolt up against the pathway though. That is another trick to this. If you want to have invisible pathways, you just got to drag it ever so slightly away. Now, how far can you drag it? Along as this arrow right here, when you're placing it down, as long as that can touch the pathway, that is all what matters. Let me just show you a little demonstration of that over here. So, very quickly, we'll just bulldoze this guy right here, because there's a little graphical glitch, we don't like the looks of it. Let's put him in, and just to even prove the point as well, we're going to throw in the new thing that we just unlocked for this area as well, which is the Sea Life Centre as well. So we have the Sea Life Centre in, and we have this little pier in as well. These need to be hooked up. You can see the little T, they need to be connected up with a pathway. So we're going to use the city path, and we're not going to put it right up here. See, this is where you'd normally put it, and that'll be fine. Very, very much. You're going to drag it out to about here. This is the gap that you need to create, because if you can create this gap, and then we do that, and then we connect him in. Let's get rid of angle, because he's being a pain in the backside for us. And we'll bend him in. As you can see, these guys are now connected, but they are not bolt up against. You need to do this when you're doing this trick, because it then allows you to place stuff in this gap, and the hitbox of this building will not interfere with that. I will also say you want to make sure it's not too close to the edge, so if you've got a fence like this, you don't want to bolt up against the edge, because you want to be placing stuff in there as well. Unless you want to like perfectly line it up with the back end of here, and then maybe like flick it around. So if we line him up right close to that, as perfect as we can, that would probably be fine. That would be excellent and dandy. And if we can then draw a pathway to him, maybe he's even connected. I'm not even 100% sure. Is that as far as it can go? Is that connected? That is connected. That is a distance, that is, isn't it? Look at the distance that is, and that is still happy and operating with that. I'm not sure if they can jump over the back door or not, so we're just going to move that back. But, you see the way that I'm trying to do this is you just want to have a little bit of a gap. If you want to have a little bit of an angle, for example, you want to have a little touch of an angle to it, so you say as you enter this area, that is the angle that you want, for example. So it's more like a little inviting entrance. That is the way you can do it. So as soon as you enter, you see the souvenir shop. That's what you want. That's where you want to go to spend all your money. You can then go in and then you just paint over the area. If I can actually remember where I'm going, which would be in here. You then just paint over all of the stuff that you want to paint over. You make the entrance as tidy as you possibly can by lining them up. Then you paint in all of the gaps, and because we're using the zoo and using the zoo flooring, they share the same type of flooring, so it matches up and looks great. I have just noticed there's a little bit of dirt poking out because of the gravel bath. That's the thing that you need to design. Do you want a little bit of dirt poking out, or do you want to have the normal pathway and maybe have the odd lamppost dotted about? I wouldn't mind the odd lamppost dotted about because it is going to be a nice area where people are walking about, so having an odd lamppost would not hurt. And it also then matches up this colour to this colour in here, which makes it a little bit more sense. So yeah, what I'm now going to do is, this is pretty crazy, I'm going to paint this whole area. I'm going to put in some pathways, we're going to put in some buildings, we're going to delete that, we're going to delete all of this, and we're going to design this in the perfect way that we want. Get by rock. How do we want this to look? What do we want in this area? So we want a souvenir shop. That is definite. That is a definite. We want a cafe. We want a restroom. We would like the plaza. And I'm thinking maybe the odd gazebo as well, just to finish it off in this area. So what we're going to do is, I think this works best if you can keep the pathing very straight and you don't have any junctions. So we're just going to have to go with one dead straight shot. That is the only bad side to this. I think you need to keep it very straight and very simple, because otherwise you're going to struggle. We could probably do maybe like one turn and you might be able to get away with it. So if we do one turn like that, can we paint and cover that area up? That is a quick little test I have not tried to do, because if we can do that, it's then going to give us a lot more creative freedom. Yeah, the hitboxes on this pathway right here are tiny. It really does allow you to do a lot of things in this game when it comes to painting over pathways, and because of it, we have a lot of creativity in this area. So let me have a little think of how I want to lay this out, and I will be back to you when I thought what we are going to do. There we go then. So we've put in all of the buildings that we want. We don't want any more buildings in this. There's no real need for it. Nice little gazebo. Restrooms right at the end. I put the restrooms right at the end so we get people using all of the path, just so we can get as much out of it as we can. Just so we get the effect of people walking over the invisible path, or, the invisible path with quotation marks. Also put in the cafe and the souvenir shop in a nice little angle, just so they look like they're together, like that would be a thing. If you have the souvenir next to the cafe shop, we can then do some benches in these areas and other little bits like that. Now it's time for the fun part, and by fun part I mean the really, really long and monotonous part, which is to paint in all of these areas. So I've now got to go in and I've got to go through this whole single area, that's right, and square by square, little bit by little bit, I place all of these down in the best way possible. So I go up. I have noticed very, very quickly, if you place these on the fence, so the zoo fence, you can actually change the colour of the zoo fence. So I can just show you that. So if you want to have a weird little design on your zoo fence, you can even do it with some of the other types. So even with the amusement types as well, you can put a weird pattern. So if you want your zoo fence, but you want to have maybe a little pattern to it, that is the way you do that. You just run that around the edge. So I'm going to not do that. I'm going to try and keep it so it matches, so it's all nice white on the inside. So now it's time for me to place all of these down, and I'll be back to you when that is all done. Just placing in the last few little tiles, just so this whole area is completely covered in this flooring. Now, The edges are not exactly perfect. They are very, very tricky to do because I was trying to make sure I didn't get any up the fence. And it's like you're painting, really. Same for this corner as well over here. It's a little bit of a gap. So to cover that corner, very, very simply, we're just going to throw a tree in there. We're just going to throw a big old, great old tree. So you are that style. So we're going to go for a similar style of tree to try and match the area up, which I think is that guy right there. There it is. Beautiful. So we're going to throw one of him in that corner, just so that is then all covered up. I'm going to do the same over there, if they actually will let me place, because we have placed a lot of little items in the area. Now, only drawbacks to this, well, if you're zooming around, you might just spot the game, do a little graphical glitch every now and then with the flooring. There we go, just like that. That is, you know, it's not great. It's then going to be testing something in the game pretty hard, I'm pretty sure. Also, if you do a big zooming out, it goes to sand, because effectively all you've done is covered up the grass and turned the grass into sand, I think, and that's what the game is doing. And it will then make this weird little patterny design, and then it slowly zooms in. It actually looks good when you're up close. It looks alright. If you're doing some still shots for some photography stuff, that can look excellent. Now we have the lampposts in, we have all of the buildings in, we're going to let the game play a little bit just to get some people walking about. And while we're letting some people walk about, we can add in some final touches, because as we know, this isn't the end. This isn't it. You can add in trees all over the place, because trees can be popped in. We can add in some rocks if we want. We can do some vegetation if you really want to put some vegetation on it, just so it looks, I don't know, weird or whatever reason. And going to the park stuff, we can add in some benches. So the cafeteria is over here, so I'm thinking just to add to the cafeteria, we're going to try and line some extra benches up to that, just to add a little bit more to the cafeteria, just so it looks a little bit bigger. There we go. I'm thinking by the souvenir shop, what I'd want is one of these, so I'd want to go and get a balloon cart, so we can put in some balloons so you can pick up some balloon carts. Maybe the odd little ride just by the souvenir shop as well, just keep the kids entertained while mummy and daddy are sorting out their credit cards or whatever. We could probably put in some cotton candy as well, just because, you know, who doesn't want some cotton candy by the calf? Let's see if we can put it in a semi-good spot. There we go, in there. You can go pick up some cotton candy. We're slowly just going to try and add some extra flavour to this area and really polish it off. I'm going to add in the odd tree as well. Just going to try and use like one or two trees in one area. That's something that I've been watching some people on live streams. I've been watching some very, very good detailers. Slay3k is the man I'm watching. I'll put a link to his Twitch in the description if you want. He does realistic builds. He's starting a new one this Saturday, actually. This Saturday, which will be the 2nd of May. He's starting a new city. He does some incredible things, and he talks about having a colour palette and having certain trees in the whole city just so it matches. We haven't done that because this is vanilla. We've thrown trees all over the place. But in little areas just like this, if we use the same tree, it then kind of flows into the whole area. And that may look really, really cool. So this plaza, for example, we can extend this plaza and put some extra stuff out. So maybe in this area, we're going to add in a little bit of benching from the zoo stuff. So we're going to add in a few more benches, just dotted about in here. And then we might go and add in like the odd little kiosks in this area as well, just so you can pick up some extra food. You don't have to go to the cafe. Maybe these people are paying a premium to get their grill shop in this area as well. So we can throw in one of them. We can throw in, I think it's in the City Park tab, there is even more kiosks, should I say, and food stalls. There we go, we can throw in another food stall in the corner. And then it looks like we have like some sort of more food stuff. We can add in bins as well, as always. Throw in some flowers, do some nice flower pot stuff. You really can do a lot of detailing in this game if you take your time, you think about what you're doing, and you play around with some ideas, and you've got to test it. You've got to push the game. I will fully admit that you've got to do some pretty wacky things when it comes to playing with this game to get it to do what you want. But you can get it to do some great things, just like these flower pots, for example, around the edge of this plaza. I think it's going to look lovely, and then it adds a little bit extra, doesn't it? And then like, I don't know, caps off this plaza just so it doesn't look quite as bland. Obviously it's hard to spin the pots around to make them look exactly lined up. It's really, really is tricky. It takes finite skill and a lot of patience, but I'm trying to prove to you guys, you don't need mods to do some detailing. It helps, by all means. If you want to do a full realistic build, you're going to need a lot of mods, and you're going to need a lot of assets, and you're going to need a lot of RAM on a nice juicy PC to make that work. We don't have that here. I have a PC with a lot of RAM. I'm deciding to play with like this instead, because I think it's something that we can showcase, because I think this game is a lot better than people give it credit for. I think in this gap right here, it's quite a big old gap. Instead of filling it with a load of benches, I might add in a few more benches because it's looking a little bit sparse, isn't it? So we'll just rotate it to the same style, and we'll put a bench there, and a bench there. Just going to need something. Let's put a sign in, because we need a sign. We need a sign by the plaza. Going to need something in this gap. I'm thinking tree. Tree, and this big bad boy of a tree like that. Is that too big? That might be too big. That would make sense. If that was there, that would make sense. And then we maybe put like a little rock around the bottom of it as well, just to look like it was a real feature and a fixture of the area. There we go. We'll do the little rock design that we've spoken about as well before, where you just ring some rocks around the bottom of a tree. That looks like that couldn't have been cut down. It looks like they had to deal with it. So now you can sit in the shade as well if you want. We've got more areas to fill out, so that is what we're going to do, is just keep on filling out areas, going through all of the props that we have available to us. So in the zoo park you still have some little stuff. You have some signs, for example, so maybe there's a sign by over this gazebo so you can do some reading. In the nature reserve stuff, there's more seating stuff, there's some outhouses, there's some lookouts, there's a well, for example. In the city park and amusement towns you have more, so maybe we should put some what should we do over here instead? Let's do maybe a sand pit for some kids. Let's do a little play area over here. So we'll throw down a sand pit, we'll throw down a cannon. Maybe the cannon is like the centerpiece of this area. So you've got the cannon that kids can go look at and be entertained by. We might try and fence this area off slightly with a little, like a little bit of a fencing as well if we can. The problem with doing this is you're then starting to, like, if you try and place this on top of exactly where the game thinks the flooring is, it's not going to happen. Right there, it's where they think the flooring is placed, so you can't do that. So let's just ring this around the edge. That looks a lot better without that hedge, I will say that. I don't like the hedge there. I've added a little fountain over here with some benches. I don't particularly like the look of that either. That looks a little bit slapdash and rushed. What else can we do with this area? There's a little bit of dead space here, but that's like around the back, so it's a shame we don't have any assets for like worker stuff. We could do like a little workers area, so can we find some like dirtier benches, something that looks like staff would be sitting on and not customers, like these. So I'll put some plastic ones out. These will be for the staff area, so we're going to try and role play it a little bit as well. There's some green ones as well. They look really dirty, they do. Then we can add in a kiosk, for example, as well for all the staff. Maybe that's where they go and hang out to get all their goodies. Keep scrolling. Glad I got a new mouse that's silent, so that's so much better. So the staff can go pick up some food from the little kiosk. They may go over to the grill and pick it up, and then we're going to finish it off by putting in some little barriers just so people can't get into this area. If you're not working here, this is not for you. So we're just going to line you up in there and block that off, and then probably around the back of this building. We don't want people getting in to the back side of here either, so we're going to throw that out and we'll barricade all of that off, and then we can just throw some bins around the back of here as well. So is there any, shame there's not any like industrial sized bins. I suppose that trash canister is the best you're going to get, so we're just going to line a few of these up so it looks like they're being used by the staff as well. That I think looks great. I think we're going to call that a success. So we're going to call that an episode. Thank you very much for watching. I've been TDavy1. If you've enjoyed the invisible paths, hit a like, give us a subscribe, check out some more videos, and as always guys, peace out.